Hey there everybody, Matt Carter here.
And Jessica Carter from CARTERMATT.com.
This video is our reaction to AGT The Champions episode number 2, which I feel like slightly less controversial than episode 1. We do not have another Hans disaster, though I do still have a pretty enormous bone to pick with at least one of the judges, and more on that soon. But I think overall the talent was stronger in this episode than episode 1.
Yeah, I agree. Even though we did have a couple of things that I was like, really? But that's okay. We'll get to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to say this. Even poor Ben Black, who's just completely fell apart, I was very entertained the entire time, though, thinking that disaster was about to strike at any given moment.
Well, I was also kind of just waiting for that moment that Ben was going to be like, oh, okay, I got you guys.
Yeah.
And then it's going to go forward.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for him when just the look on his face when it all didn't work out. But anyway, we'll talk through all of this. But before we do anything else, if you like this video, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other updates. So I think the best thing coming out of this is that you and I, we both have a pretty clear favorite. And it just so happens that both of them, luckily, actually moved on to the next round. This is not a junior creative situation all over again.
No, it's not. And I'll be forever upset
Scarred.
about that. Yes. But yeah, I want to start this out by talking about Marcelito. I had never seen him before this show.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of him before this show. I didn't know what to expect. I heard the first voice he brought out, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And then I heard the second voice he brought out, and I'm blown away by him. And both of his voices are gorgeous. He is just amazing. His story aside, which is also really heartfelt and brings me into loving him even more. His voices are gorgeous. I love him. I'm so happy he's going forward.
This Marcelito Pomoy is like a perfect example of how, well, I watch a lot of Britain's Got Talent, and I watch a lot of America's Got Talent, but I haven't seen too many other international editions, and I'm totally kicking myself after this because it was just sort of like how did I not know this guy existed before this, for starters? Yeah. And then it's just also like, how was he not on the first AGT champion season? Because don't get me wrong, his higher register is great, but that lower register was divine. Like, that was go and record an album, put it out, and it will sell millions, like, level talent. And
and I don't know enough about him to know that if he has or hasn't, maybe he was recording something, maybe he was touring. I don't know what he's doing. I'm certainly after this video going to see what he's doing because I've instantly become a fan of his. His voice, oh my God, I can't say enough about him. He's magic.
Yeah, and that's the thing with some of these international acts too, is that we like to just have these in-the-moment reactions, and then after the fact, and I know a lot of you commenters out there are very good about this as well, we can then take your recommendations and go and check out some of the other stuff that they did, because we weren't familiar with them and our minds are just blown coming out of this.
Yeah, and you guys have been really great helping to kind of clue us in on some of the stuff. Like last week we had Angelina, who I had never heard of before, and her voice is crazy good. I love it. She's just a gorgeous, beautiful voice. You guys have been really good to sort of be like, hey, check out this, and here's this, and it's given me a wealth of beautiful songs from her. So yes, Marcelito, if there's anybody out there who are fans of his and you've got some stuff to share, I will take it all.
We will definitely take it. It is one of those sort of things where it's a crazy thing to try to do, to basically play two different parts in a duet, but he did it and it worked.
I've never seen that before in my life.
I think I may have seen it before, but I've never seen it before that good. And here's the funny thing is still, he was outstanding, and yet it's difficult for me to gauge who's the best, because Mark Spellman, aka X, he's probably one of my favorite Magic acts ever on any edition of the show. And what's so interesting to me about him is that I don't necessarily even think all the time that some of the things that he does is the highest degree of difficulty I've ever seen, but it's just the way that he carries himself, the way that he sells this character. I mean, he did some stuff on Britain's Got Talent that still sort of blows me away. And this time, I mean, the big trick was he apparently called up Shin Lim beforehand and was like, hey, buddy, you want to, hook a guy up here and come out here and do this? And I knew that he was capable of pulling something like this off, but I love he took it to that level where we see all the time with mentalist acts. They're like, oh, I could guess what you guys were guessing. And then you have like one little twist at the end. But then he added a really big twist at the end, and I didn't see, I'm sure it's there, but I didn't see when they had a chance to swap bodies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was what I was wondering too. I was kind of wondering, did they swap bodies, or was this just Shin Lim the whole time? Like, that was the thing about this particular act. I felt like there was too many moving parts of it that I felt like I could figure out what was happening. So for me, it was all about the showmanship of it and seeing two really great magicians come together and pull something off together. And for me, that was what made this act for me. It wasn't really about like, oh, here's your card, here's your face. That thing they did that was cool about like, oh, let's take out Howie and let's put in, Shin Lim. That was cool.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, I was kind of like, okay, maybe they did it like this. So maybe they hit it like this. And it had me thinking more about that. I can kind of figure out how some of those things were done instead of paying attention to everything that was happening.
Yeah, and I think I am like a self-proclaimed X super fan that I think he could just come up there with like his arms outstretched and that weird mask, and I'd be like, all right, X, I'm in. Just stand there for give me that for 2 minutes, and I'll think there's a trick at the end of it. But I think the thing I was most kind of concerned about with X this time was, in Britain's Got Talent in the finale, he revealed who he was, and we didn't know for the entire time we were watching him, so I was just thinking, okay, am I still going to enjoy this as much actually knowing who X is? And I did. I'm very pleased that he moved forward. I have no complaints there whatsoever. I mean, absolutely same with Marcelito, who I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, Mark should have gone through, and I'm glad that he did.
And then our third act to go through, we'll talk about Ryan here because, I mean, we already did a preview a little bit about him, but, very, very funny. I think it was an extremely strong set. I think the AG team, the producers and the judges, I think they're cognizant of like the variety of acts they want to see in the next round. And I think they were probably thinking, okay, here's one of our best comedians. We got to have a way to keep having him in the competition. Yeah,
no, we needed Ryan in this competition. He is so funny. I just love his brand of humor and how he's able to kind of make fun of himself in a way that gets people uncomfortable and talking and laughing, and we're all part of it. I'm really happy he's going through. I was hoping he'd be going through, and here we are. So good on you, Ryan. I am very excited to see what you got coming up.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Ryan, and now things are about to get a little bit testy because, don't get me wrong here, I remember seeing Boogie Storm for the first time on Britain's Got Talent. I remember Simon talking about how this was like some weird dream he's had. I don't know why Simon has been dreaming about this, but he's
a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, clearly he is, and the joke.
But lots of us are Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Wars fan, and why?
Well, the first time I got it because there was a lot more content. I thought it was very surprising the first time because I didn't know what was coming, and then they started dancing, and then you had them doing like the single ladies dance, and like, oh, that was fun. This was like 20 seconds of actual dance.
Yeah, like when everybody started standing up a chair, I thought, okay, but there's going to be a little bit more or something like that. I think there's just been so many really great dance acts or people like Dragon House, for those of you who remember them, that when I see dance acts now, you gotta be on that same level as those guys to be able to wow me over. You can't just put on a stormtrooper outfit and spin around on your head, because that is something besides the costume that is stuff I've seen before multiple times. There isn't anything new except that you're in a costume.
Yeah, I know Boogie Storm can be really good, but it just felt this time especially, it felt very gimmicky, and not so much just them as the gimmick, but it was like Simon was the part of the gimmick, and if I was one of the other acts who did not get through, I would be pretty mad. I mean, granted, it sounds like based on what Howie said, he would have given X his golden buzzer if he actually had a chance to use it, but still, there's somebody else. I could think of a couple of people who should have gotten through to the next round over Boogie Storm. And I will give you the floor first. Who do you think is the best out of the people who did not advance?
I actually want to say that it was Puddles. And
you coming to the clown side.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with Puddles, the thing about him is why I'm always really torn on him.
Yeah.
Is that he doesn't need this clown gimmick. And I get why it's there, and I get why he's doing it, but he doesn't need it. His voice is so beautiful, and his performance tonight, so beautiful. And I try to just look past this persona that he's created to just see the guy behind it. But his performance tonight was really good. And to not see him going through over a spinning stormtrooper on his head, I was just kind of like, nah.
Well, I'm one of the biggest Puddles fans out there. I loved Puddles' first audition so much, but I'll be honest, this wasn't actually my favorite Puddles performance that I have seen. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but I would say if I had maybe had 5 acts to put through, maybe I would have put him through. But if I have 4, this is where it gets tricky to me, because I think there were a couple of people who were really good. I mean, I thought Spencer, what he did. I think anyone who's willing to die coming on a talent show and getting staples in their head.
I think that's what turned me off of it. Like, I expect, I guess, there to be a certain, like, there's obviously a risk that you're going to die. You're going to hurt yourself. That's part of this act. I completely get that.
Yeah.
But if you're injured, then it feels like it's not necessarily a danger act anymore, where you're taking calculated risks and you're doing this in a way that's, there's danger, you're going to die, but it's a little bit more safe. You have figured it out. If you smashed your head open, then now I'm kind of uncomfortable watching you get into this and do this because you're injured. And it's not just an injury, it's a head injury. So I just felt myself just being uncomfortable during this act, and not in the good way that I always am when I see people that are doing these kinds of escape acts, which are some of my favorite acts besides like the danger act.
I would actually say this. I would actually like to see an act like get out of their little apparatus like 5 seconds before it hits 0, as opposed to like, because it's always like 1 second before 0, so it always feels a little bit calculated. And I don't actually have Spencer as my number 4.
No, I just saw him like when he got out of that and he was kind of like stumbling around. I was like, I'm just uncomfortable. This didn't feel right.
Yeah, I was entertained. I mean, I'm not going to say, but it wasn't, I've seen acts like this before and it didn't do anything necessarily that I haven't seen other places. I didn't need staples on his head. I would say Oz Perlman is my number 4.
All right.
I know I've already put another magician in here. I love magicians, what can I say? But I just thought, I've seen a lot of these acts of his specific type, like, because X is kind of a mentalist, but he does a lot of other traditional magic sort of stuff too. And what we have here, I mean, this is just like a pure mentalist routine, but he is just like so slick. He is so professional with how he does it. I think his reveals were pretty cool, and it was still one of those sort of situations like, okay, of course I knew we were going to get to something like, oh, it's the serial number on the dollar. I've seen this sort of thing, but he makes it so good in how he delivers it, where you actually do kind of be like, oh, how do you put all this together? And I just thought it was such a well done act, and I would watch him again a number of times over just because I'm always perplexed by how he does it.
Yeah, sometimes it's about the showmanship of it and the journey of it.
Yeah, I really like Oz's journey. I think he's a really, really talented magician, mentalist, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
So we obviously have a lot of good acts on this episode. I mean, we're clearly each able to come up with a number 4. Never would have predicted you would have went with Puddles instead of me going into this.
Yeah, no, I really did enjoy what he did tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm all in on the singers tonight after it was like Marcelito and Luke did great, then Puddles. I'm just like, oh, the singers. I'm feeling the singers.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I think Luke was really good in this episode, and yet I don't think he popped. Like, I don't think he had that. I don't think he had that moment. And maybe it's just maybe he should have just picked a different song. Maybe that's the issue.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is just that Marcelito had a very theatrical performance in a lot of ways as well. And I think if you're a singer and you're coming out competing against a guy who's doing 2 different ranges.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
And song choice matters. And that's why I actually kind of also was leaning into Puddles, because he was singing a song tonight that I was just like, oh, and I was getting a little nostalgic and feeling that song. So, you know.
Also, tremendous dog pandering by Puddles in this performance. Always, there's 2 things I know about Simon. He loves his dogs and he loves stormtroopers. I mean, if you can give him that, he's going to be pretty happy.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a couple more acts on the night. We had Calabro, who, you know, I've always thought Calabro, they've done really well overseas, and I like them, but it's once again, I don't think they really popped at all tonight, at least to me.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite of the night.
Yeah, it's just sometimes you get, once again, there's a lot of singers on this show.
There is.
You're on a Marcelito, somebody who I've never seen before.
Yeah, it's really hard to compete with that.
Yeah, and just Ben, we talked about him briefly. I feel for the guy, but I also feel like make sure your apparatus is like 100 before you go out there.
Well, you could tell that he felt like there was a lot riding on it. The fact that he had the safeties on and he hadn't figured that out right away told me that he was already going into this not feeling confident. And if you're not feeling confident, like when everybody was Xing everybody out because they were like, oh my goodness, like you can see all over his face. He forgot to even just take the safeties off. This guy is not in the right frame of mind for this tonight.
Yeah.
Not saying he's never going to be, but tonight was not working. I was glad that they ended it. I didn't want to see it end in a way where he felt like he needed to push himself into something that wasn't either set up right or working right.
Yeah.
Like, let's not roll the dice on that. You can come back. We will see you again, whether it's this show or somewhere else.
Yeah.
The career is not over.
No. Then this was incredibly compelling, but I think in the end, not compelling in a great way. Like, I have no problem watching people go up there and be target practice for themselves and their acts, but I want to at least kind of sense that they're very confident in what they're doing, even if I am terrified by what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing with, like, Deadly Games when I watched them. I mean, I always felt like they were really on point with what was going on, even if I was terrified for them. But
yeah, I feel it's sort of that thing where I need to know that you have some sort of control over your act to some degree. If you're going to give me a danger act, give me an act where I feel like you're probably going to get out of it, because that's the thing that I want to see. I don't want to see you get a crossbow to the head. I want to see you kind of having this cool, like, and it's all around you kind of thing. That's what I'm here for. I don't want to see you die on the show, Ben.
No, and I know this is probably the unfortunate thing for some of these people that are, you know, maybe not as known in America. Is it's like, I know Ben is really talented, and it's like, I know some of these other people who weren't great tonight were really talented, but it's one shot. You know, certain things just happen. You catch momentum at the right time. You have the right performance.
Yep.
It's a crazy night. I feel like, other than Boogie Storm, I feel like everyone else made the right decision.
Yes, the right decisions went through, but yeah, I don't know about Boogie's. No. Just no.
Boogie Storm, finalist on America's Got Talent, the champions. But anyway, let us know in the comments what you thought about all of the performances tonight. And if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us more by checking that link in the description to the CARTERMATT store. And we'll see you here next time.